It's wonderful to be here. And I would love to give as much as you give. So I have a question about meditation. And ironically enough, it's more for Esther, I think. You sort of answered it yesterday with the fact that joy doesn't have to be this externalized happiness or smiles.
Alignment represents itself in many ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the answer is there. I'm just wanting to explore it a little bit more in the sense of I found a couple forms of meditation. I've been practicing with Sufis and other lineages, and I've gotten to the point where I see the masters that have passed on from that lineage. They actually, I see them.
Translating your alignment visually.
Visually,
yeah.
I get that. But then I'm an expert at manifesting things. Always have been. Cars just show up in my driveway. Gems show up on my body. Men appear out of nowhere. I have a wonderful husband. He lets me be in my alignment, doing my thing. We zig and zag, and it's almost perfect. It's never perfect. It's never done. I get that. So on the physical plane, I get it as much as I can in this moment. But as I continue to meditate, it's almost like none of that stuff matters. You know, I can have the gems. I don't have to have the gems. The man, the cars.
We want to be clear that here in this body, in this leading edge environment, your intention is the fullest of manifestations. So often, if manifestations, for whatever reason, conditions, as we've been calling them recently, are unsettling in even the slightest way, then a withdrawal from that and a realigning with the basis that produced them, or the basis that came before them, or the vibrational basis that is the reason for them, is a very good idea. But we want to be very clear that if you knew how powerful your intention was to be in this body, fully focused and fully functioning out here on the leading edge, you would not be trying all the time to get out of them.
Right, and I'm not negating that experience.
We understand that, but we just want to be clear. We want everyone to understand that the manifestation, because there's a tendency to misunderstand the purpose of meditation. The purpose of meditation is, of course, for alignment, and it's for relief and for release. It's for allowing connection. What it's really for is for allowing that broader part of you to predominate, to be the in the moment dominant vibrational offerer. But it is all for the continuation of the turning of the vibration into the manifested things. And sometimes people get backwards in that, as they almost feel a little critical of what is manifested, like I don't need to have the gems or the whatever or the cars because I've got this. And we say, yes, of course, this is the basis, this is what you really want. But if you're really, really in alignment, all of those things that you've picked up as desires along your physical trail will come to fruition in your experience. And so that's why we always say that a way to know what your alignment, what your connection, which is what you're wanting to achieve in meditation is, the way to know the effectiveness of it is two ways: by what's manifesting and by the way you feel. And so it all just flows together so naturally and nicely. Yes. We know what you know, and we know that you are not confused about this, but your words pointed meditation into a place that we are not wanting to point it. Everything that we're teaching here is about vibrational preparation for living the robustness and fullness of the physical life that you are about. Otherwise, you would have remained here with us.
Right. Yet there's this deep peace that I experience in meditation that I long for.
We like the feeling of peace, but we want to ask all of you how the feeling of peace stacks up against a feeling of love. Then let us put another word to it: the feeling of peace as it stacks up with the feeling of exhilaration, or with the feeling of enthusiasm or passion. Because in peacefulness there is less momentum in the object of attention. There is less flowing of your connection to something, and the most exhilaration comes from that. And so we encourage the alignment with that peacefulness in order to find that balance. But when you remain in that peacefulness, introducing no resistance to the equation, that peacefulness will evolve to more. So sometimes when someone is seeking peacefulness, it is seeking a sort of retreat from resistance out there in the conditional world. And it's a good place to find it. We just want you to understand it. We just want you to understand that your goal is not to be peaceful. Your goal is to be an outrageous, fully satisfied, deliberate creator.
I am. I absolutely.
Yes.
Exactly
Yes. And so, what is it about meditation that you would like some clarification about, or did we give it to you?
You gave it to me. I guess I've been feeling that meditation has created more of a neutrality for me in the fact that there isn't that flow and the momentum that you mentioned.
Well, a lot of people meditate too much. In other words, we're encouraging 15 minutes a day as a vibrational balancing exercise, or we're encouraging it as a quieting of the mind approach if you can feel that your vibration's a little bit out of whack.
So 3 hours is a little excessive.
3 hours is 2 hours and 45 minutes excessive.
I don't have a problem stilling my mind.
We can see how that quieting your mind, but the thing that is interesting about this is a good conversation to have. So, as you've lived life, whether you were conscious of it or not, everyone has been putting things into their vibrational reality, into that vortex that we talk about. And law of attraction has been bringing those things together and assimilating all of the cooperative components. And the momentum of your vortex is increasing with or without your attention, because that's just the nature of law of attraction. So then you meditate, which is that step 3 thing that we were talking about. It puts you in a place of non-resistance. And if that is the case, if step 1 has been accomplished, and it has, and step 2 has been accomplished, and it has, then when you get into that allowing state, momentum is the natural thing that ensues from that. And we promise you that it isn't long before you start being the receiver of many ideas about something to do, about something to create, about something hands-on. In the early days when Esther was first meditating, the instruction that she had received from someone who knew how to do it was, sit in a quiet room and wear comfortable clothing and focus on your breathing. And when your mind wanders, and it will, release the thought and focus on your breathing. So Jerry and Esther went back to their apartment, put on their bathrobes, closed the drapes, sat in comfortable chairs. They were embarrassed to do this weird thing together, so they sat in wingback chairs with an etagere between them because it was just too weird to actually be meditating. They were business people, for heaven's sakes. And so they sat, and as Esther focused on her breathing, right away, she felt a detachment unlike anything that she'd ever felt before. It was actually one of the first times in a long time that she had stopped talking. And as she felt that detachment, she could not tell her foot from her nose. In other words, that feeling of detachment came about very quickly for her. She loved the sensation of it. And when the 15-minute timer went off, Esther said, let's do that again. So Jerry set the timer again, and another 15 minutes. And now, still, Esther is sort of floating in the room, it feels. She cannot feel anything about her physical body. It is a feeling of peacefulness. It was a feeling of sublime peacefulness. And the timer went off, and she said, let's do that again. And Jerry is thinking, this is my all-or-nothing girl. 15 minutes, again, he set the timer, and at the end of that 15 minutes, or nearly so, Esther felt us breathe her. She did not know that's what was happening. To her, it felt like her body was a billows and someone else was pushing the air in and out. We would say to all of you today about that Esther had accomplished the receptive mode, and that she was allowing her inner being, her Abraham, to breathe her, to be the thought that was causing the response in her physical body. Well, the sensation of it was so satisfying to Esther. It was so exhilarating. It was so unforgettable. It was so intoxicating. It was so what she thought she'd been looking for forever. It was such a sublime sense of well-being that she and Jerry decided that they would do that for 15 minutes every day for the rest of their lives. And so every day for the next 9 months, they sat together, quieted their mind, focused on their breathing. And again, Esther would achieve that state of detachment. Jerry did too. And as Esther was in that state of allowing, we were broadcasting to her thoughts. And every time she would receive one, she would remember her earlier guidance. When your mind wanders, and it will, release the thought and focus on your breathing. So Esther just focused us away for 9 months. She just focused us away because she didn't expect meditation to be the receiving mode, the receptive mode, where thoughts would begin to flow. And when you are the translator of the thoughts that you are receiving, it's not easy for you in your unpracticed state to know whose thoughts they are. And Esther assumed, because she was thinking them, because they were being thought in her thinking mechanism, that they were thoughts that she should release. And that's really the point that we're making with you. The only way that anyone could meditate for that long without receiving such momentum in thoughts is that you are releasing the thoughts and focusing on your breathing. And that's why we are wanting to clarify that the purpose of meditation is for the hooking up. And once the hooking up has occurred, then the living life in connection with the whole that you are, tuned in, tapped in, turned on in every conversation, in every interaction that takes place from that moment forward. That's really what you're wanting, you see. Meditation is not meant for withdrawing from life. It's meant for hooking up with the wholeness of who you are and then living life, you see. Yeah. Really good.